Hey guys, so today's video is a little bit of a different kind of video. I'm going to be showing you guys how I edit my SSO pictures on Instagram. I'll show you guys in depth the brushes I use. I use Ruby Disco Clouds brush set. There's lots of different brush sets you can use. If you kind of look into it, there's lots of really great brushes out there. These are just the first ones that I used because I really like the art that she does. If you just click on her link tree and go to my brushes, it will take you to her page where you can buy brush packs for Procreate. So I'll show you guys the brush packs that I will be using in today's tutorial, or the ones I use a lot. So there's lots of new ones. I got mine I think a year ago or something. So I do have her braid brushes for Procreate. I won't be using that in today's video, but those are really nice and I'm still kind of learning how to use them. I also have the light and flare brushes. I use these to create sunshine effects, so I recommend these. I have the glitter hair brushes. Depending on your style, this is great if you want to add some glitter or shine to hair. And I also just have the glitter brushes. These are great for adding glitter or shine to like the background. I have the fur brushes. This is good, especially if you're painting your own picture for adding fur. I also have the 28 eye brushes. I use this for eyes, both on my own paintings of people and just to edit SSO pictures. She now has something called 200 plus hair brushes for Procreate. This didn't exist when I got the hair brushes from her, but if I was you guys, I'd probably get something like this because it comes with so many. I think that this is the hair brushes one I got, the fluffy hair brushes. So yeah, there are so many different brush packs that you could get from her page, so I highly recommend them. I haven't used any other ones, but I've really liked using them. I obviously can't get anything to look as good as she does because I'm just not a skilled artist, but anyways, this is where you go to get the brushes. So now I'll show you guys me editing, so let's get started. Okay, so the first thing I do is I open up the Procreate app on my iPad. I use an iPad Pro and I use an Apple Pencil. You can just use a regular stylus, but I do recommend it's a lot easier to use an Apple Pencil if possible. Totally get that's expensive. Alright, so I start by opening the Procreate app, and I'm not going to be explaining really how to use the Procreate app in super detail right now. It's one of those things that you kind of have to play around with. There's lots of tutorials on YouTube about how to use the Procreate app. I'm going to start by opening, I have 4 pictures on the top I kind of want to edit today. I'll start with a really basic one, so I'm just going to be doing a horse picture. Alright, so in the top left, you're going to add a layer. And basically this means that if I draw anything on top of this, I can erase it and it won't erase the original picture. So I'm just gonna name this layer Hair Base. You always want to start with a base and then add layers on top just for more and more detail. And again, I'm not a professional, I just do this for fun. I'm not even that good. Okay, so the texture pack I'm gonna start with using is the hair texture pack. And there's a brush called Base. So there's a thicker one and a smaller one. I'm gonna use the smaller one. And then to find a color, I just like to click and drag around the area. And I'm gonna pick a darker base color, and you can always add lighter highlights on the top. At least that's how I like to do it. So I'm gonna zoom in and I'm just gonna kind of start, I'm gonna pick a good size, and I'm just gonna kind of start painting over. And I wanna make sure I cover the original hair so it doesn't look weird, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be perfect. See, that looks horrible, so I'm just gonna erase and try again. It's a lot of trial and error for me. Sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't, and that's totally fine. It helps to kind of follow the original sometimes. Okay. So now I'm just going into the main, and instead of one big clump, I like to make it wavy and I like to make little pieces. And if I don't like it, I just press this undo button and try again. It's not that hard. The hardest part is honestly creating the base. Once you create a base that you like, everything else will look good on top. I don't like how I did this. I'm just gonna erase it and I'm gonna connect these to make the main look a little thicker. And I know it does not look that good right now, but trust me, it'll get better. This kind of looks like a grandma's wig. I kind of hate this a little bit, so I'm gonna try it again because this is the most important step. So just get it to where you like it. You can erase and start over if it's not working for you, which I totally do all the time. Alright, I'm kind of liking that. It will look better when I add more details later. Okay, now I'm gonna go in the tail, and usually I like to start the tail a lot higher than they do. Okay, so that's the general shape of the tail for right now. Make it a little bit fuller maybe. All right. I could hate this, but you know, that's how life is. I'm not going to create a new layer for this one. I'm going to keep in the same layer. And I like to use, this is one I just started using and I really like, it makes hair look so much better. I use Last Hair Strips. So I'm going to use the one that looks a little more detailed and make sure it's a good size. And I kind of go in where the ends of the hair are and it makes it look more natural. Okay, and then especially like right here, and you know, I'm not the best at this, I'm gonna turn down the opacity. That just means it's not as like intense, if that makes sense. So that just makes the hair ends look a little bit more polished. And next I'm gonna create another layer on top of that because I'm gonna start doing highlights. And when I create a new layer, it just makes it so that if I mess up on the highlights, it doesn't erase everything else, like the hair base along with it, if that makes sense. I'm gonna just put hair layer. Okay, and then I forgot on the tail, I do need to like erase this tiny part and make sure I didn't like get any of the tail on like the skin of the horse, because that always looks weird. Someone who's like a professional artist is like cringing right now, but you know what? This is how I do it. People have asked. I'm here to tell you. All right, for the layer, I'm on hair layer now. I click on the color. And the color's honestly a little bit purpley. I'm not even sure I love that. You can drag in, the nice thing is you can change the color if you want. So I could go in and see if I like that better. But because this picture does have a filter on it, it is a filtered picture. I mean, you kind of just have to find what looks good for the horse. I feel like that looks good. It's a little bit too dark. Because sometimes you'll finish like the whole sketching part and then you'll be like, I don't know, it's not the right color. And so then you can change the color from there by dragging it. That's why you should always do layers, because it makes it so much easier to change color. Okay, I feel like that's okay for now. We'll go on with that. So now let's start with the hair layer. And now that the color is not purple, we can pick a color that's, I just drag it so it's a little bit lighter in the same palette. And I'm gonna go in with, I'll either do curly hair. Sometimes I use Wave Babe. I use that a lot actually. And sometimes I use Perfect Mane. There's lots of different brushes in here, so feel free to explore them. And you want to make sure the opacity is not all the way up, because if you turn the opacity all the way up, it's going to look really unnatural. So this just makes it blend a little better, like 50% depending on the colors. And I like to make it a little bigger just so that it's easier. And you just want to follow the shape of the hair. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can erase any mess ups later. See, this opacity is too high, so I'm going to turn it down. And I'm just going to start. And yeah, with the Apple Pencil at least, you do have to adjust how hard you press and stuff like that, which is kind of nice. Okay, so I just kind of followed a general wave pattern, and then I'm gonna do the same for the tail. All right, and then if there's spots where you got hair where you don't want it, you can erase it. Like, I got a lot of extra hair right here, so I'm just gonna kind of erase it. Be careful doing that, because sometimes you can make it look way too perfect and that looks kind of weird, so I'm gonna delete that. Yeah, the key to making it look good is adding lots and lots of layers, honestly. And then I'm gonna, like, there's like this hair right here, gonna clean that up a little bit. Cool. Okay, so I'm just gonna add another layer. I'm gonna make this layer a lot lighter, and I'm just gonna leave it called layer 4. I know it's a hair layer, whatever. All right, so this one's a lot lighter. Same thing, I'm just going through adding highlights, and I hate how that looks. I'm gonna make the brush a little bigger. That's much better. So just play around with it. Depending on the size of the hairpiece you're working on, you're gonna wanna change the size of the brush. And now that I'm doing the mane, I'm gonna make it bigger again. So that looks pretty good. Then I always go in with the same dark color on top of that. I just keep blending colors in, honestly. So I'm gonna create another layer, and I don't always clean up around the sides, because sometimes multiple layers, it makes it look less like a hard line and more soft like this. I like how it does that, because that's what hair does in real life, right? Okay, so I'm gonna go back to my history. I'm gonna click that dark color, big to main, and we're gonna go in and go over that with our original dark color. Yeah, I like this main color. The base that we picked I think was perfect because with the layers it doesn't look too dark anymore. Now I've gone over with the dark color. I'm gonna add another layer and I'm gonna do the lightest color again. Honestly, you're just gonna keep adding layers. Yeah, make sure not to press too hard, especially on like the top layer. And then I try to add more light pieces, especially where the light would naturally hit. So I'm not the best at lighting, and anyone who actually draws and is watching this video will probably know that. Chill out this. Some of these highlights look a little weird. Okay, that looks okay. This isn't like, the tail looks really good, I think. The mane looks a little messy. Okay, it's that piece right there. So I'm gonna go in with, I just undid a lot of stuff and I'm gonna go back in less intense highlights and try and follow the original hairline as much as possible so that it doesn't look like what I just did. Okay, that was a little better. The next thing I'm gonna do, and if there's any pieces that are just like crazy that need to be erased, the most annoying part is that you have to go find which layer it is. There's like a bump right here, so I'm gonna go find what layer that is. And you can also like hide layers. Okay, so I know it's this layer. I'm just gonna erase that tiny thing on the top of the head. It looks weird. I'm just gonna clean up this a little bit. And is this like the best work anyone's ever seen? No, but you get the picture. This is kind of how you do main hair. I'll show you guys the next brush I usually use. So after I do that, I go in and I do the strands very detailed. You can pick any of these strands, and I just like to go in and add whiffs of hair, and I always use the darkest and I make it really small, and I usually keep it like 75% opacity. And this is where I go in and I add individual details that just make it look more natural. I try to add them like around the edges of the hair, obviously. It just creates that effect of hair blowing in the wind. Basically, what we learned today is just play around with it. I'm gonna do a couple of strands in a lighter shade just because it will look less intense that way. I think part of it is there's like the pine tree in the background, and that's kind of looks like hair a little bit. So you can also pick some single strands. I like to use that too. I will use the darker one, and you can just do like a lot more detailed strands, if that makes sense. And I just like to do it around hard edges because it makes it look a little softer. Okay, that's just to kind of keep it from looking more natural. I mean, I've had definitely ones that look better than this, but this is what we're getting today. I hate this section. It just bothers me a lot. Okay, so this is kind of the hair situation. Okay, the next brush I would go in with is, so I really like to do glitter. Geonyx is probably my favorite one. I'll use like the lighter highlight shade, so I use this one. And you want to make it really like low opacity. And I'm just gonna go over where the sun would usually hit. Oh shoot, it's huge. And you see it just adds a little glitter. You can make it bigger, obviously, like if I went up in opacity like that, it looks really nice. So I just do that on the edges of the hair usually. It can be really easy to overdo it with this one, but if you do it really subtly, and normally I would add a new layer for that, so that was a bad thing I just did. Add a new layer for glitter, just because it makes it easier. If you're like, oh, that's like too much, you can easily get rid of it. I like how that looks. Okay, and then I'll go in with, usually I'll add some glitter, so I'm just using the regular glitter one now. I like the Boko glitter the best. And now that it's not the horse, I'm gonna just pick white because I want the glitter to be white. And I haven't really done a lot of glitter in a scene like this, but I would just put it in the sky like that. And, you know, just add, I don't know, in all my Instagram pictures I have some glitter I think it just adds a nice touch to the picture. So that's what I use for that. Then lights and flares, sometimes I will just add in individual flares. So I'll add in like a star right here and just like it's glinting off. It's hard to get these perfectly right, but if you do, like right there, it just looks like light is glinting off the main. If you get it just right, which it's hard to kind of get it, but once you do, looks amazing. Oh, wow, that's huge. Okay, make it a little smaller. See, like that, one right there, a couple right there. Then I will change to a different kind of flare. So I'm gonna pick like no, I'll do Justin because it's a little different. And I try to vary the sizes, so I'll go in, maybe I'll do one off his back. You can't really see it though. Trying to make it light is coming off the horse's mane. It just makes it look cool. Actually, I'm just gonna add a big flare right here. Cool. Okay, so it looks nice and shiny. The last thing I'm gonna do with this horse is I'm going to go to eye brushes now. So this is where I do the eyes. I use the line painting one. And I usually find the color and I go a little lighter, or I will find a color in my palettes. I have actually purchased palettes. You can purchase a lot of different palettes. I got mine not for SSO editing. Usually I use these palettes for when I'm just painting. Like some of my art on my Instagram, I draw and sketch just from scratch. So usually I use these palettes for that, but sometimes I use them to pick eye colors. I kind of like this color. Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna do line painting. I'm gonna make it small and I'm gonna turn down the opacity just because I don't want the eye to be like completely orange. Okay, and I make it really like high opacity so that it doesn't like ruin the eye. I just lighten up the eye, it makes it look more shiny. Okay, next I go in with highlights in the same color. And I just, well, that's really big. I'm gonna make it size super small because I'm pretty zoomed in. And just like in the middle part of the eye, I like highlight it. A lot of these are good for if you're just doing art, which I'm not doing that. And then glossy is a good one too. So I'm just gonna go in the middle of that and do glossy. And then for horses, I will just do the lashes and brows one. I'll find the color of the lashes of the horse and I will just make some nice lashes, detailed lashes. That one's good. I'm just gonna use, I have like basic brushes. I'm just gonna use a sketching brush and like, I think this comes with Procreate. I'm just gonna use a sketching brush to like accentuate like eyeliner almost. So it just makes the eye pop. And I'm gonna accentuate this part of the eye a little bit too. Cool, let's see how that looks. It just looks a little bit more bougie. I'm gonna add like a glitter in the eye. So I'll add a flare and I'll try to make it white. Cool. That just looks really pretty. Okay, so that picture is done. And I really like how it turned out. I think it looks really good. So you guys have seen how I edit a horse in Procreate. I'm gonna be editing more pictures in future videos. So keep an eye out for that and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching, bye.
I'm on thin ice, you'd never guess. I've been hiding a monster, keeping it quiet. I do my best.